Chapter 23-26, Giant Sun Retreats. Star Constellation. Is the rumor in Treasure Yellow Heaven true? Giant Sun Immortal Venerable fought against Spectral Soul Demon Venerable while contacting Star Constellation Immortal Venerable and questioning. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable replied casually, "This is Fang Yuan's scheme to waver your determination." Giant Sun Immortal Venerable dodged Spectral Soul Demon Venerable's attack while probing. Right now, Fang Yuan is plundering Central Continent. Why aren't you stopping him? If you are willing to give up on Central Continent's resources, why don't you come and deal with Spectral Soul Demon Venerable alongside me? Aren't you the one who wants to eradicate Spectral Soul the most? Star Constellation Immortal Venerable gave an excuse. Since you are in a bind, I will come and help you after I heal myself. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable heaved a long sigh. Star Constellation, you are truly good at scheming. I am impressed. He was a venerable. After seeing that Star Constellation Immortal Venerable hid inside Heavenly Court without any intention of coming out after capturing Chi-Si Ancestor, even giving up Central Continent's resources and recalling the Gu immortals of the 10 great ancient sects, he guessed the truth. What could make the Grand Heavenly Court and Star Constellation Immortal Venerable make such a sacrifice? The revival of a venerable, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was silent. She did not respond. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had to retreat. He no longer fought against Spectral Soul Demon Venerable, but transmitted to Fang Yuan instead. Fang Yuan, I can't lure Star Constellation Immortal Venerable to come out. If Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable revives, it will be over. Sigh. Thinking about it, there were signs alluding to this earlier. Do you remember the battle in Crazed Demon Cave? Back then, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable cooperated with me to pressure you, but she made a mistake and lost the opportunity. The reason was because you used Chi-Si Ancestor as a shield. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable held back. Fang Yuan snorted coldly, replying, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable is truly the #1 wisdom path in the world throughout history. It is normal that my wisdom path attainment is inferior to her. But what is the point of saying that now? We need to ally now and attack Heavenly Court to have a chance of turning the situation around. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did his best to withdraw. He only dodged Spectral Soul Demon Venerable's attacks as he pulled apart the distance between them while thinking to himself. He frowned deeply and considered the situation rapidly. It seemed that he was the biggest loser in the battle over the Heaven Path Dream Realms. Fang Yuan obtained the Heaven Path Dream Realms and lost Chi-Si Ancestor, but he obtained a lot of resources plundered from Central Continent. Although Star Constellation Immortal Venerable lost Central Continent's resources, she obtained Chi-Si Ancestor. If she could revive Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable successfully, she would be the biggest winner. By then, even if all of Central Continent were to be slaughtered by Fang Yuan, they would still be the winner. Another venerable would change the situation fundamentally. No matter how much manpower or resources Central Continent lost, it was only temporary. They were completely different concepts. Even a fool would know which choice was more important as long as Heavenly Court's 2 venerables cooperated. They would easily suppress Fang Yuan, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, or Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. It would be basically impossible for Fang Yuan, Giant Sun, or Spectral Soul to refine natural Tao marks. If Heavenly Court sent out both venerables to attack them, they would need to retreat. They could not undergo the process of natural Tao mark refinement. Conversely, as long as Heavenly Court sent out a venerable to stall them, the other person could refine natural Tao marks using that time. As time passes, Heavenly Court's advantage would accumulate quicker. By the time they refine all the natural Tao marks of the 5 regions, the other venerables would be cornered. Of course, in this situation, Giant Sun, Fang Yuan, and Spectral Soul would have to work together. But could their alliance match the cooperation of Heavenly Court's venerables? Spectral Soul Demon Venerable was not sane now. The main cooperation would lie with Giant Sun and Fang Yuan. But Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not trust either of them. It would not work. Be it their cooperation level or fundamental beliefs, such differences would be magnified in a battle of life and death. Not only that, Heavenly Court even had a 3rd venerable in history, Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable. If 2 other venerables were alive, the third venerable, Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable, would have a much easier time reviving. Thus, Heavenly Court has finally reached its most crucial turning point. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was clear about this fact. This was like the backlash Fang Yuan faced from the Venerables when he refined rank 9 Gu earlier. If he survived it, he would experience a qualitative change and obtain the upper hand. In the future, no matter what he did, the difficulty would be much smaller. The reason why the Venerables were in a deadlock was because they had all just revived and were at the same starting point. Or rather, their differences were minuscule. But if another Venerable from Heavenly Court revived, this balance would be broken. Even if Giant Sun and Fang Yuan worked together, they could not match Heavenly Court. If we can't stop Star Constellation Immortal Venerable, this will be the crucial moment where Heavenly Court regains its domination of the world and defeats the other Venerables. Knowing this, after learning that Qi Si was captured in Heavenly Court, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's standpoint changed completely. He contacted Fang Yuan and created a plan to pretend that he was still fighting against Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. It is a pity that Star Constellation Immortal Venerable has a clear grasp of the human heart. I can't lure her to come outside. If Star Constellation Immortal Venerable were in Central Continent, there would still be hope. After all, her advantage in Central Continent was not as large as being physically in Heavenly Court. But Star Constellation Immortal Venerable hid inside and refused to come outside no matter what. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was helpless in this situation. Truly, a top schemer could achieve victory without even participating in battle. At the crucial moment, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable did not try to fight. She was unaffected by the burden of Heavenly Court's reputation and other factors, bearing the huge pressure of sacrificing and giving up Central Continent's people to make the right choice. Luck inspection. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was indignant. He used his luck inspection method. The results were disappointing. Heavenly Court's luck was above everyone else. It was still showing signs of rising. Be it Giant Sun, Fang Yuan, or Spectral Soul, they were all suppressed by Heavenly Court's luck. Other than that, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not see any huge variables that could influence the situation. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, why are you still hesitating? Fang Yuan's voice was transmitted again. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable sighed. Fang Yuan, we've lost. Accept the fact. We will need to exert a lot of effort to enter Heavenly Court. Even if we get in, we are unable to cooperate sincerely. How can we be Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's match? We won't succeed, even with Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. Attacking rashly will cause us to fall into Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's trap. Our strength will dwindle. In my opinion, we should preserve our strength for a future opportunity. Fang Yuan snorted coldly as he replied in displeasure. How can I accept this without even trying? Star Constellation Immortal Venerable is the #1 wisdom path expert. She had such ease in plotting against us. If Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable revives, she will have an even easier time. How can we deal with a wisdom path Gu Immortal? We need to exterminate them. We cannot give a wisdom path Gu Immortal any time to make arrangements. Our current situation is the best proof of this. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable asked in response. Then in your opinion, what should we do now? Fang Yuan gritted his teeth. Plunder Central Continent and slaughter the people. I don't believe that Star Constellation Immortal Venerable will let it happen. Even if she can, after Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable revives, he will only gain a barren region. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable shook his head. Such an act was too brutal and demonic. It did not suit his nature. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had his reservations that if he did this, when Star Constellation Immortal Venerable and Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable retaliate by slaughtering the Huang Jin tribes, what would he do? Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had another thought. Fang Yuan wants me to stand on the same side as him. If I participate in slaughtering the people of Central Continent, there will be no way of reconciling with Heavenly Court. My demonic path status will be permanent. Without any reconciliation, there would be no room for a truce. The pressure of two venerables would weigh on his shoulders. He was not like Fang Yuan, who was cold and unconcerned with his subordinates' lives. I have longevity heaven as my base. Even if all three venerables of Heavenly Court revive, I can still defend myself. This is my foundation for a negotiation. But Fang Yuan is all alone. He has no such base. This is a huge problem to him. Thus, he wants me to join him. If I do not participate in this, in the future, Heavenly Court will target Fang Yuan as their priority. I will have more time to cultivate. It is still not the time to go all in now. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable thought of this and rejected Fang Yuan's proposal. But Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not want to offend Fang Yuan. He explained, I can't bring myself to do such a thing like killing all the people. I'll advise you not to do this personally. There's a more suitable person. I'll lure him to you now. Coward, Fang Yuan shouted. All you care about is useless reputation. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not show any anger. He understood why Fang Yuan was feeling upset and angry after getting schemed against. He lured Spectral Soul Demon Venerable to Fang Yuan, who landed in Central Continent in response. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable was not like Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. He did not let Fang Yuan down. After leaving Spectral Heaven, he went into Central Continent and started his massacre. This was within the expectations of Fang Yuan and Giant Sunday. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable's injuries were severe, but he could heal himself by slaughtering life forms and hunting soul beasts to increase his strength. He had done this in Spectral Heaven earlier. Now, the situation was similar. Heavenly Court, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable had been paying attention to the two Venerables' actions. After seeing that Spectral Soul Demon Venerable was killing all the life forms in Central Continent, she sighed deeply. But after seeing that Giant Sun Immortal Venerable left Central Continent to return to Northern Plains, her eyes shone brightly as joy filled her heart. The Heavenly Court Gu Immortals could not understand why. Even if Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not want to invade Heavenly Court, he would at least ransack Central Continent for some resources, right? But he left directly. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was clear of Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's intention. She spoke to Golden Hooped. Great Immortal, your effort back then has finally paid off. This is the best result for us. In the past, Golden Hooped Great Immortal had invited Giant Sun Immortal Venerable to tour Heavenly Court and wanted to recruit him to become their fourth Immortal King. His plan failed and even allowed Giant Sun Immortal Venerable to leave a luck path method as a backdoor to Heavenly Court, causing them huge losses during the Fate War. But in fact, the truth was that Golden Hooped Great Immortal's action had a certain impact on Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. In his heart, Heavenly Court had once tried to recruit him. They even tried to make him their leader. In that case, there was a possibility of negotiating with them to come to a peaceful truce. Chapter 23-27, Primordial Origins Revival. Chapter 23-27, Primordial Origins Revival. After hearing Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's words, many of the Gu Immortals gained some realization. Now it seems that Giant Sun Immortal Venerable is still a righteous path person in essence. He is indeed quite different from Fang Yuan. Be it in terms of action or ideology. Fang Yuan is brutal and casually sacrifices his subordinates. He treats everything as his tool. But Giant Sun Immortal Venerable is different. He cares for his descendants and is someone with deep kinship. In my opinion, he has far greater foresight than Fang Yuan. If he acts like Fang Yuan, he will have no chance of appeasing Heavenly Court. He will be our mortal enemy. Thus, he has already started planning to express his goodwill towards Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable. From what I see, this is all Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's plan. She did everything to defend Heavenly Court and allowed Fang Yuan to ransack Central Continent. The truth is, I was quite unhappy about it. But now, it seems that this was only part of her plan. It managed to make Giant Sun leave Central Continent of his own accord. This is an incredible outcome. Sigh. I should not have tried to evaluate Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's wisdom with my shallow view. Chi-Si Ancestor's eyes were shut. He was motionless like a statue, floating quietly in Heavenly Court. Above his head, Star Constellation Chessboard orbited and released a pale blue light that enveloped his body. After some preparation, the entrance of Chi-Si Ancestor's immortal aperture started to open. The immortals cheered loudly. Afterwards, Rank 8 Heaven Chi Immortal Gu flew out of his immortal aperture first, and after that was Earth Chi Immortal Gu, followed by various Qi path immortal goo that the immortals were in a commotion. Even though Qi Si ancestor is strong, against Lady Star constellation immortal venerable, he is only meat on the chopping block. Self-detonating immortal goo is so easy, but right now, the pseudo-venerable Qi Si ancestor has been completely controlled by star constellation immortal venerable. He can't even do something as simple as self-detonating his immortal goo. Once Lord Primordial Origin immortal venerable revives, these Qi path immortal goo will allow him to recover a portion of his strength. Lady Star constellation immortal venerable has truly planned it perfectly. The immortals praised in succession. Star constellation immortal venerable had clearly suppressed Qi Si ancestor completely. She controlled his mind and used her thoughts to replace his death. Thus, she was able to open the immortal aperture's entrance and suppress all of the goo worms inside. Of course, these Qi path goo worms still belonged to Qi Si ancestor. They were filled with his will that it was much more difficult for star constellation immortal venerable to get rid of his will than controlling Qi Si ancestor's mind directly. These immortal goo did not have a mind. To get rid of their lingering will of Qi Si, the best solution would be to directly refine these Qi path immortal goo. Star constellation immortal venerable did not plan to do that, but she only suppressed these immortal goo and prevented them from self-detonating. She kept them for her master, Primordial Origin, to deal with personally. Primordial Origin immortal venerable was a Qi path goo cultivator. It was better for him to deal with these Qi path immortal goo that after all the immortal goo were retrieved, it was time for the secluded domain of heaven and earth. Once Huland appeared in front of everyone. Heavenly court erupted with an intense wave of cheers. This was a Qi path secluded domain of heaven and earth. It was spoils of battle comparable to rank 9 immortal goo. Qi Si ancestors who elevation killer move used who land as the cord at a secluded domain of heaven and earth was very hard to destroy. It was much easier to obtain than immortal goo since star constellation immortal venerable could even suppress Qi Si ancestors immortal goo. Obtaining who land was a natural thing. With this secluded domain of heaven and earth, even if Master has no rank 9 immortal goo in his treasury, he can still display the might of Qi path. While feeling satisfied, star constellation immortal venerable did not forget to inspect these immortal goo in the secluded domain of heaven and earth. Fang Yuan was vigilant. So was she. Even in heavenly court, she was not being careless at all. After using all her methods to inspect them over 100 times, star constellation immortal venerable confirmed that these immortal goo in the secluded domain of heaven and earth were not tampered with. Afterwards, star constellation immortal venerable placed these loot into the immortal formation and suppressed them. This was her final step of precaution. Fang Yuan was a refinement path venerable. He might have some methods that star constellation immortal venerable could not decipher, but with these loot being suppressed in the immortal formation, even if Fang Yuan's method activated, it would be detected by star constellation immortal venerable immediately. She would have time to counter them. Even if Fang Yuan has any method that I have not detected, it is not a big deal. I can suppress anything with the immortal formation. Star constellation immortal venerable was filled with confidence regarding this. Back then, she had even used Feng Yang to undergo immortal goo transactions with Fang Yuan. That was she not afraid of Fang Yuan tampering with them. Of course, she had such worries, but the concern was quite small. Star constellation immortal venerable was confident in noticing Fang Yuan's methods. Other venerables like Giant Sun immortal venerable would also have such confidence that their confidence was not baseless. Refinement path was too broadly cultivated in the whole world. The advantage was that refinement path developed immensely. Many refinement path goo worms could advance to rank 9. The weakness was that everyone knew how to refine goo. They had a certain understanding of refinement path. Heavenly court had existed for 3 million years, while star constellation immortal venerable was a wisdom path venerable. How could she not know the refinement method of fake goo? Such an action was common in the mortal goo master world. If Fang Yuan made fake goo, even if star constellation immortal venerable did not cultivate refinement path, she would notice it. Of course, if Fang Yuan had sufficient time to develop star constellation Immortal Venerable would not dare to take a risk in this aspect. She would be incredibly cautious towards any immortal gu that Fang Yuan had contacted. After Qi ancestors Immortal Gu and Hu Land were taken out, star constellation Immortal Venerable took out various resource points from Qi's immortal aperture. Most of the Qi path resource points were kept inside. The ones that were taken out had one similarity. They all had a lot of non-Qi path Dao marks. After finishing this, star constellation Immortal Venerable started to use her killer moves. She had created these wisdom path killer moves herself. Nobody else knew of them except her. After more than 10 killer moves were used, Qi ancestors' immortal aperture and mind started to break down. All sorts of Qi path resource points, and his entire body started to turn into Qi currents. A massive number of Qi currents were gathered together, forming into the vague shape of a Qi harvest fruit. The star constellation Immortal Venerable's eyes shone with brilliance and wisdom. She used 3 killer moves consecutively, eliminating Qi ancestors' will, thoughts, and remaining emotions in the Qi harvest fruit. Qi ancestors' soul was taken out and kept in the Immortal Gu House Soul Suppression Hall. This Immortal Gu House was once used to hold spectral soul demon Venerable. It was too easy to contain Qi's soul now. The Qi harvest fruit slowly stabilized. The star constellation Immortal Venerable stopped her various wisdom path methods, carefully drawing star constellation chessboard away from the location. Even without star constellation Immortal Venerable's support, the Qi harvest fruit was becoming clearer and more stable. That star constellation Immortal Venerable inspected it carefully and relaxed. As she had expected, the Qi harvest fruit was in sync with primordial origins methods now. She did not need to do anything else. That she could not interfere anymore, or it could be an issue. After all, there were conflicting Dao marks. She cultivated wisdom path and star path, not Qi path. The best situation was to allow primordial origin Immortal Venerable's methods to activate and trigger his revival. After 3 million years, Lord Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable's methods are still effective. I am truly in admiration. There are no issues left. Lord Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable's revival is imminent. It was my fault. The newly revived Qin Dingling came over and said with an expression of guilt, "If I was not muddled and let Qi ancestor take heavenly court's Qi harvest fruit, the first venerable to revive would have been Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable." Everyone consoled her upon hearing this. Even star constellation Immortal Venerable looked over at her. "Qin Dingling, no need to blame yourself that you are not a wisdom path Gu Immortal. While Fang Yuan is extremely crafty and has even deceived the world, it was not your fault that you failed to deduce Qi ancestors' true identity. Even I would make mistakes sometimes. The important thing is that you learn from your mistakes and grow. You must continue to look forward bravely. That is the true behavior that we should follow. We will remember Lady Immortal Venerable's teachings." The immortals responded in unison. The Qi harvest fruit soon grew to the size of a mountain. Qi ancestors' Qi path foundation was converted into the Qi harvest fruit after it stabilized. It was even larger than the one that Fang Yuan made back then. As time passed, the Qi harvest fruit continued to grow stronger. In the past, the Heavenly Court immortals would be terrified of this scene, but now they looked towards the Qi harvest fruit with anticipation and excitement. The Primordial Origins revival process, which had been interrupted by Fang Yuan in the past, was restarting now. Not long after, star constellation Immortal Venerable frowned, but she noticed that the Qi harvest fruit's growth was slowing down. Something is wrong. She quickly inspected. The entire inspection process was slow and careful. She did not want a powerful investigative method to affect Primordial Origins revival process. The Heavenly Court wisdom path Dao marks that she refined were very useful in this case. She soon found the reason. Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable had left many methods in Heavenly Court that were related to his revival. For example, the Primordial Qi Wall. Master's plan must have been to use the Qi harvest fruit from the Qi tides to revive himself. He arranged all sorts of Qi path methods in Heavenly Court as a form of assurance. When the Qi harvest fruit lacks nutrients, these Qi path methods would be used to supplement it. However, because of the various battles that occurred, these Qi path methods were greatly expended. Thus, Its growth was slowed now that star constellation Immortal Venerable had no way to make these chi path methods recover to their original state. But after thinking about it, she quickly found a replacement method that, after all, these chi path methods were meant to support the chi harvest fruit's growth. Star constellation Immortal Venerable immediately ordered for all of Heavenly Court's chi path immortal materials to be taken out while she made deductions that not long after, her expression turned pale. She was covered in perspiration, but she produced a chi path immortal formation. The foundation of this chi path formation were the chi path methods from primordial origin. It was quickly completed under star constellation Immortal Venerable's arrangements that afterwards, star constellation Immortal Venerable placed a large number of chi path immortal materials into the immortal formation. As the chi path immortal formation activated, it was quickly reduced into all sorts of chi currents that were condensed together before being instilled into the chi harvest fruit through primordial origins arrangements. After the boost of nutrients, the chi harvest fruit started to grow rapidly again, but this did not last long. Heavenly Court's storage of chi path immortal materials was quickly expended. They were about to run dry again. Chapter 23-28 Explosion. Chapter 23-28 Explosion. Star constellation Immortal Venerable saw the issue. The chi path immortal materials were insufficient. Her expression turned dim that Heavenly Court's foundation had finally hit rock bottom. In fact, when she set up the star array calculation formation and nurtured the immemorial star beasts, she had already expended all of Heavenly Court's star path resources that recently, Heavenly Court's members revived continuously. The remaining immortal graveyard was also consumed until only a small area was left. It could no longer allow any goo immortal to revive. Heavenly Court had developed for 3 million years. It had incomparable foundation, but after several huge battles, the expenditure was severed when spectral soul demon Venerable escaped from Heavenly Court. He ransacked the immortal treasury. They had to use their secret storage and even subtly draw resources from the 10 great ancient sects that, until today, Heavenly Court was already showing signs of exhausting its foundation. Of course, the main reason why they were out of chi path resources was because the immortal material expenditure was just too high. In primordial origin, Immortal Venerable's original plan, the chi harvest fruit would primarily grow using the chi tides. The chi path methods he left behind would only be a failsafe in case any unexpected mishaps occurred. That the chi tides were crucial in growing the chi harvest fruit. But now, the chi tides had ended, and the chi path's methods were not completely intact. They had to expend chi path immortal materials instead. It was obvious that the more chi path immortal materials they expended, the larger the chi harvest fruit would become, and the stronger primordial origin Immortal Venerable would be. After reviving that star constellation, Immortal Venerable made deductions again. As she used her full strength in doing this, countless thoughts collided in her mind until she felt a sharp headache. But she eventually deduced another killer move. That after testing it, she modified the killer move slightly. The star constellation Immortal Venerable's breathing was quite rough and her expression was pale. She opened the entrance of Heavenly Court at the next moment. Yet before any other Venerable reacted, she aimed her killer move at the entrance. That Heavenly Court's entrance was immediately covered by a layer of profound light as it rapidly drew in heaven and earth chi from the outside world. The heaven and earth chi were vast and boundless. They entered through the entrance with unceasing momentum and flowed into the immortal formation. The heaven and earth chi were not of high quality, but could compensate with quantity. With this supplement, the growth of the chi harvest fruit was no longer an issue. The Heavenly Court immortals were shocked. They quickly discussed, why did Lady Star Constellation Immortal Venerable open the entrance of Heavenly Court? This is a good thing. The stronger the chi harvest fruit, the more powerful primordial origin Immortal Venerable's chi path foundation will be after revival. What if Fang Yuan attacks using this chance? Ha ha! Didn't he try to attack earlier? Losing to Lady Star Constellation's divine might, will he dare to come again? Fang Yuan did not show up. Indeed, not only that, even Spectral Soul Demon Venerable was not paying attention to them. He ravaged Central Continent and slaughtered countless beings. His injuries recovered by a large extent. The soul fog surged. Wherever it went, verdant mountains turned gray and flowers wilted. while beast corpses were lying all over the place as his soul. Howl was used. Huge waves appeared on the lakes afterwards. Corpses of aquatic animals like fish or shrimps floated to the surface. A vast number of souls were devoured by spectral soul demon Venerable. He was like a huge black hole that devoured everything he slaughtered. His injuries were healed, and his body expanded again during this process. A wild immortal goo was created in spectral soul demon Venerable's body. Rank 8 immortal goo. Kill. This caused a considerable commotion that drew the attention of Fang Yuan, star constellation immortal Venerable, and giant sun immortal Venerable. At once, the three Venerables had strange expressions that they knew about a secret of the past. Back then, spectral soul wanted to create killing path. But in the end, he failed after devouring Black Heaven's heavenly spirit. He was forced to create soul path instead. But to think that he showed signs of creating killing path now, while he was not sane. Immortal goo kill was clearly the core immortal goo of killing path. It was not formed so easily. This was a goo refinement undergone by the heavenly Tao. Most importantly, it was refined in spectral soul demon Venerable's body. This meant that although he was currently not sane, he was quite close to creating killing path. Killing path is already showing signs of emerging. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had already returned to Northern Plains. He immediately ordered the Huang Jin tribe Gu immortals who were headed to Central Continent to not get near Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. They should not be greedy with super resource points. Also avoiding Heaven Refining Demon Venerable, a Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not personally plunder Central Continent's resource points, but he did not give up. He sent his bloodline descendants this way. Even if Heavenly Court pursued the matter, he had a degree of distance and could give excuses. Giant Sun, if you come and cooperate with me, I'll give you half of the Central Continent resource points that I plunder. Fang Yuan transmitted again. He did not give up on convincing Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. The Giant Sun Immortal Venerable rejected with an increasingly firm attitude. On one hand, he felt that star constellation Immortal Venerable would not expose a weakness. This outcome was already decided. There was no point in joining hands with Fang Yuan. On the other hand, he had his own reservations. Firstly, his eldest son Yu Tianguang was taken away by Yu Tianguang in longevity heaven. He needed to look for his son. Secondly, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had already used I reside in all living beings and heaven and earth twice in a short period. This move had a huge drawback. It would leave him in a weakened state for some time. He had to conceal himself and secretly get through this weakened period. If he exposed this weakness, the killer move's value and usability would fall immensely in the future. Heavenly Court. The Qi harvest fruit continued to grow larger. The vast amount of heaven and earth Qi, countless Qi path immortal materials, as well as methods like the primordial Qi wall, were all turned into Qi path Tao marks that were added into the Qi harvest fruit. At the core of the Qi harvest fruit, a human-shaped core was formed. As time passed, the core's features became clearer. It was increasingly human-like. Star constellation Immortal Venerable saw this and immediately comprehended that primordial origin Immortal Venerable's revival method contained the profundity of human path. To think that master's human path attainment is even higher than I thought. Star constellation Immortal Venerable smiled faintly as memories surfaced in her mind. In his bed, primordial origin Immortal Venerable suddenly coughed out blood. Master, how are you? Star constellation quickly came over and used her methods to heal him. Primordial origin Immortal Venerable had just blocked a chaotic disaster and fixed the hole in the world. He was heavily injured and could barely get up. The star constellation did her best to stabilize his injuries. She had a look of surprise. She found that primordial origin Immortal Venerable aggravated the injuries purely as a result of his own actions. Star constellation frowned deeply. Master, you suffered such heavy injuries and can't even walk now, yet you still took a risk to create a killer move. Primordial origin Immortal Venerable had a look of joy. These injuries are not an issue, my disciple. I succeeded. I grasped onto that inspiration and created a human path killer move. Using this move, we can use the immortal aperture to extend the lifespan of Gu immortals. Among all the existing lifespan extension methods, my newly created method is the most effective. Star Constellation looked at the content and had a gaze of surprise. Light flickered in her eyes as she understood the true value of this killer move. Primordial origin, immortal venerable laughed loudly. With this method, we will not need to force human goo immortal experts to join our heavenly court. The temptation of lifespan extension is too great. From now on, as long as they contribute their immortal aperture to heavenly court, they will become members of heavenly court. They will get to use this human path killer move to extend their lifespan. Star Constellation nodded. She was joyous as well. Master, what is the name of this killer move? Cough, cough. Primordial origin immortal venerable coughed before saying nonchalantly. The name is not important. You can decide it for me. Just make one up. Star Constellation quickly answered. She loved to name things, she added. We need to give it an awesome name. It should draw people's attention. Let me think about it. My good disciple, go and think of the name. I am too old now. I don't have the creativity anymore. After you decide, let me know. Primordial origin immortal venerable rested in bed and waved his hand to Star Constellation. Star Constellation nodded and said solemnly, Master, you must not take such risks again. Your injuries are too severe this time. Primordial origin immortal venerable laughed to himself. These injuries are nowhere near my limit. I've once suffered even greater injuries. You know it too. There's been at least 5 of such instances. Star Constellation stared angrily. You are already 25,000 years old. You need to admit you are old. You've already done enough for humanity. Since you are injured, you need to recuperate. I will lead heavenly court. Ha ha ha. With you around, what worries do I have? Primordial origin immortal venerable laughed as his voice became softer. He showed an expression of dejectedness. Maybe I should really admit that I am too old. You what? Star Constellation shook her head. She showed an expression of knowing her master very well, but being helpless against his antics. The primordial origin immortal venerable laughed after seeing her expression. While she was taking her leave, he even winked at her playfully. The Star Constellation took care of primordial origin, who was recuperating while handling heavenly court's affairs. In her free time, she thought of the name of the human path killer move to relax her mind. Star Constellation was busy for 3 days. After that, she finally had some insight about the name of the human path killer move, but she did not know that she would not have a chance to tell primordial origin immortal venerable about this name anymore. When she freed herself from her busy work and went to visit primordial origin immortal venerable, she saw that he was lying on the bed quietly. His eyes were shut and his expression was plain. There was only a faint smile at the corners of lips. This legendary leader of humanity, the first-generation immortal king of heavenly court, the person who held up the banner of humanity's retaliation and forced all the variant human forces to hide themselves, had passed away. He died calmly, peacefully to relieve his disciple was the reason why he was relieved. The moment Star Constellation saw primordial origin again, she realized that primordial origin immortal venerable's injuries were extremely severe. He had only purposely concealed the fact that he was making considerations for the big picture. That after all, although the variant humans retreated from Central Continent, they were still rampant in the other 4 regions. Even in Central Continent, many variant human forces hid in their blessed lands and grotto heavens. They could not be found. He knew his injuries could not be healed. Using the last of his strength, he painstakingly created a human path killer move to aid the future development of heavenly court. A Star Constellation stood in front of primordial origin immortal venerable's bed and kept silent for a long time. Eventually, she spoke in a hoarse voice. Master, I've already thought of the name for this human path killer move that it suits this scenario quite well. I'll name it Lying in Bed. Lying in bed was able to turn the immortal aperture that a goo immortal contributed to heavenly court into a bed that was free from calamities and tribulations. It could also extend their lifespan to a great extent. Back in that era, it was the #1 lifespan extension method besides lifespan goo. Afterwards, Star Constellation created another human path killer move. On the foundation of this move, naming it Others Sleep Soundly. Others Sleep Soundly allowed the heavenly court members to sleep on their respective beds and reduce their body activity and time flow to the lowest possible limit. At the same time, their will would be extracted and converted into human nature. one opposite of heaven nature spectral soul, is filled by c. 2265. To help star constellation immortal venerable resist heaven's will after she assimilated with the Tao, that at the final moments of his life, primordial origin immortal venerable lay in bed and contributed his final moments to the future of heavenly court and all of humanity. A star constellation immortal venerable did the same. In order to protect heavenly court, she sacrificed herself and became one with the Tao. This pair of master and disciple were truly of the same lineage. Lying in bed and others sleep soundly became the foundation of heavenly court's immortal graveyard. Within the chi harvest fruit, the human-shaped core had already grown to the size of a normal human adult. There was a change in the chi harvest fruit's skin as well. Countless primordial chi walls formed and wrapped around the core of the chi harvest fruit. Primordial origin immortal venerable's revival was already reaching the final steps. That the methods displayed during this process made star constellation immortal venerable quite surprised. She gasped and sighed at the intricacy of primordial origin immortal venerable's chi path. Methods. As time passed, a wave of grand aura permeated the chi harvest fruit. The chi path Tao marks that were created from heaven and earth chi, along with the chi path immortal materials, were added to the chi harvest fruit continuously. The human-shaped chi harvest fruit was already showing primordial origin immortal venerable's form. The many central continent Gu immortals were currently kneeling. Heavenly court's members had tears in their eyes. They were incredibly excited. He was the first venerable of the world. Among them, he was also the one with the longest lifespan. Without him, humanity would not have its current prosperity. He was the person who led the rise of the human race. He was the creator of Chi Path and had left behind countless methods to defend heavenly court, including primordial Chi wall, lying in bed, and others. He had defeated countless variant human experts. He had suffered countless injuries. Who knows how much blood he lost in the process? He created Emperor City, which was the incomplete form of divine Emperor City. He was the first to contribute his immortal aperture. He gave up on the clan system and recruited disciples. He was the role model of Central Continent's sect system. He worked his hardest and gave his life to heavenly court and all of humanity. Even the variant humans who hated him to the core had to admit that he was a grand existence. He was primordial origin immortal venerable, and today he was going to return to this world. The chi harvest fruit started to tremble as a grand aura leaked out, creating huge chi waves. The entrance of heavenly court opened as this aura was exposed to the outside world. At once, within spectral heaven, chi currents either fell, moved together like a storm, or even created all sorts of vortexes and whirlpools. That a peculiar phenomenon was formed as the 5 regions went into an uproar. Primordial origin immortal venerable's revival was almost completed. Finally, star constellation immortal venerable let out a sigh of relief and knelt on one knee as she said, "This disciple pays respects to master." Within northern plains, giant sun immortal venerable sighed. The outcome was decided. Fang Yuan, however, stared at heavenly court. He frowned with a vague hint of anticipation and excitement in his eyes. That at the next moment, boom! Primordial origin immortal venerable exploded. In northern plains, giant sun immortal venerable stood on the spot. He looked in the direction of heavenly court with uncontrollable shock on his face. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan had a faint smile. Chapter 23-29. Fang Yuan's scheme to blow up heavenly court. Chapter 23-29. Fang Yuan's scheme to blow up heavenly court. This huge explosion was too sudden. It had occurred too fiercely. At once, winds soared and clouds dispersed. Heaven and earth changed colors. Heavenly court shattered. A large number of grotto heaven fragments flew everywhere like a volcanic explosion. Only half of the immortal aperture entrance remained. There were all sorts of holes and gaps everywhere. Exposed in spectral heaven, dust and smoke rumbled. Heavenly court could not be seen clearly now. That an unknown number of Gu immortals had died. The only thing that could be confirmed was that the mountain-like chi harvest fruit had dissipated entirely. I succeeded. In Central Continent, Fang Yuan looked in the direction of heavenly court and let out a breath of air. Long ago, he had already started to consider this issue. At that time, He was in a predicament with danger all around him. The sovereign immortal aperture's time flow was too fast. This forced Fang Yuan to undergo tribulations. Although he had used endless trouble multiple times to delay his tribulations, the chaotic disaster could not be skipped by this method. Once Fang Yuan underwent tribulation, he would need to place his sovereign immortal aperture in spectral heaven and open his immortal aperture's entrance for some time. This would expose a huge flaw and lure star constellation Immortal Venerable and giant sun Immortal Venerable to attack him. Even spectral soul demon Venerable might come. Other than the danger of tribulation, Fang Yuan also felt hunger. This was the sovereign immortal body's hunger. The sovereign immortal body was created using sovereign immortal fetus goo. The flaw was that it needed to consume an immortal aperture of the same rank as the goo immortal once in a while. Now that Fang Yuan was a venerable, he would need to annex a rank 9 immortal aperture. These two crises made Fang Yuan extremely worried. As the saying went, if one did not have big worries, they would worry about smaller things. Fang Yuan had great foresight. He could also anticipate his future problems. Rather than leaving these issues to the future, he should start resolving them now. Fang Yuan did not have a passive nature. He enjoyed taking the initiative to launch the first attack and control the situation. Fang Yuan knew one of primordial origin Immortal Venerable's revival methods. The reason was simple: the killer move stealing heavenly secret. Back then, Fang Yuan used the immortal ascension of his goo immortal seeds to experience natural inspiration and use stealing heavenly secret to inspect all the secrets within heavenly court. He knew the profundities contained in the Qi harvest fruit were meant to revive primordial origin Immortal Venerable. Even star constellation Immortal Venerable was unclear of the exact details regarding the Qi harvest fruit revival method. But Fang Yuan had a clear understanding of heavenly court, along with his Qi path great grandmaster attainment level. He made deductions and research with wisdom goo's help. Star constellation Immortal Venerable made arrangements within the star array calculation formation. Her methods were precise and meticulous. The intention was to use both embroidered tower and star constellation chessboard to capture a pseudo-venerable. This arrangement was done secretly. Fang Yuan did not know of it, but he did not need to guess to know that star constellation Immortal Venerable would definitely try to revive primordial origin Immortal Venerable. If he were in her shoes, it was certain that he would prioritize in reviving the other two immortal kings of heavenly court. Things were difficult to do openly, but easy to do secretly. One star constellation Immortal Venerable made a move. Her every action would expose her intention that heavenly court had deep foundations. It was under the rule of 3 immortal kings. This was heavenly court's greatest strength, but to Fang Yuan, it also was their greatest weakness. Thus, Fang Yuan thought of sacrificing Qi Si ancestor to purposely lure star constellation Immortal Venerable into using the Qi harvest fruit revival method, even if Qi Si ancestor was his clone. So what? For the goal of eternal life, what could he not sacrifice? For the sake of his grand ambition, would Fang Yuan be stingy on such a sacrifice? The plan to give up Qi Si ancestor and use him as bait to revive primordial origin Immortal Venerable was quite likely to succeed, but he needed a chance to send Qi Si there. He could not do it openly. Star constellation Immortal Venerable was the #1 person in wisdom path. Fang Yuan had experienced her strength countless times. She often saw through his plans when they were still at their initial stage. There was a clear example previously with Feng clan. If he did it in a way that was too obvious, star constellation Immortal Venerable would notice and use the plan against him, causing Fang Yuan huge losses. Thus, he waited until the opportunity presented itself. Undoubtedly, the Heaven Path Dream Realms appeared at the best timing for Fang Yuan's case. Although the Heaven Path Dream Realms could raise his Heaven Path attainment level, he was not anxious to get them. As long as nobody could make use of these Heaven Path Dream Realms, he could continue to refine rank 9 Immortal Goo secretly, to raise his strength and pull apart his distance from the other venerables. The longer this dragged on, the stronger Fang Yuan would become. But the contest over the Heaven Path Dream Realms became the best red herring to conceal his scheme to give up Qi Si ancestor to the enemy. Fang Yuan thought a lot about this. He made difficult choices. He could not act too willing. Everything had to be logical. That star constellation Immortal Venerable's intelligence was unfathomable. She was too smart, but her wisdom was something that Fang Yuan could make use of. Thus, Fang Yuan sent Qi ancestor into the star array calculation formation and did not do anything excessive that afterwards. Star constellation Immortal Venerable personally helped Fang Yuan and completed the arrangements for him, capturing Qi ancestor. Throughout the process, Qi ancestor was kept in the dark by Fang Yuan. He was unaware that not just him, Wu Shuai and Zhan Budu did not know either. It was like how star constellation Immortal Venerable deceived the 5 immortals from Heavenly Court regarding the plan to take Lin Jinxing's otherworldly sword path down marks. But Fang Yuan was even more ruthless. He even deceived himself. Giving up the Qi clone was not enough. To assure star constellation Immortal Venerable, he even gave up the Qi path Immortal Gu and Huland. So what if he had to give up these Qi path Immortal Gu? As long as he could achieve his goal, Fang Yuan could even give up rank 9 Immortal Gu. Huland, wasn't it just a secluded domain of heaven and earth? If it could deceive star constellation Immortal Venerable for some time, not to mention one secluded domain, he would even give up 3 if he had to. In Fang Yuan's eyes, the so-called Immortal Gu and secluded domain of heaven and earth, no matter how precious, were just tools for him to go after eternal life. Since they were tools, if there was value in sacrificing them, he would do it. Fang Yuan had no hesitation regarding this. The star constellation Immortal Venerable only had a vague understanding of the Qi harvest fruit revival method, but Fang Yuan knew it clearly. He was a refinement path venerable. He was also proficient at revival methods. From the perspective of refinement path, the Qi harvest fruit revival method was just using the Qi harvest fruit as the main material, along with primordial origins arrangements in Heavenly Court, to create a new body and soul. Was it any different from Gu refinement in essence? No. In that case, Fang Yuan could make his arrangements that he first treated Qi ancestor as a Qi path immortal material and process some steps in advance. Of course, the corresponding memories were already removed from Qi ancestor. It was like how star constellation Immortal Venerable altered the memories of the Gu immortals who entered the derivation formation. Qi ancestor's entire body was tampered with, but this was related to the peak profundities of refinement path. Star constellation Immortal Venerable could not detect anything even after checking many times. The star constellation Immortal Venerable had refinement path attainment too, but Qi ancestor looked normal on the surface. There would only be issues after he was used as an immortal material for the Qi harvest fruit revival method. And during the process of revival, the problem would intensify. But star constellation Immortal Venerable did not completely understand or control the Qi harvest fruit revival process. This gave Fang Yuan many chances to take advantage of the situation. My plan succeeded. As for the gains, it will depend on future developments. Fang Yuan did not rush to attack Heavenly Court. He continued to plunder Central Continent while contacting Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. Giant Sun? We are so lucky. A problem happened during Primordial Origins revival. Heavenly Court blew up instead. This is our best opportunity to strike. If we miss this and Heavenly Court recovers, we will regret not taking action. For life. After seeing Heavenly Court's explosion, after a momentary shock, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable immediately thought of attacking Heavenly Court. After getting Fang Yuan's transmission, he became even more tempted. But he was hesitant now. Should I really attack Heavenly Court now? Did they really make a mistake? Is Fang Yuan behind this? Giant Sun Immortal Venerable thought of Fang Yuan's mysterious defensive method. He really could not see through this person. It was possible that Fang Yuan was behind this all along. That's strange. Why did I not sense this huge variable earlier when I used luck inspection on Heavenly Court? Unless star constellation Immortal Venerable used a method to conceal Heavenly Court and it stopped my luck inspection from working. That would really be ironic. The last thing that made Giant Sun Immortal Venerable hesitate was Light Emperor, his eldest son, as well as the wild rank 9 Light Gu in his immortal aperture. Light Emperor was kidnapped by the 2 legendary immemorial beasts, Yutian Guang and Zui Hui. If Giant Sun Immortal Venerable did not go to save him, he would be in danger. Of course, Giant Sun. Immortal Venerable thought of his own blood seed. Since he could revive Light Emperor once, he could definitely do so again. Giant Sun is still hesitating. Did he notice anything? Fang Yuan saw that Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was not taking any action. He started to ponder that Fang Yuan did not know about the secret behind Giant Sun and his son. He also did not know about the drawback of using the killer move. I reside in all living beings and heaven and earth. But he soon thought of a reason. With the explosion, heavenly courts. Losses cannot be assessed now. Star constellation Immortal Venerable's injuries are unclear as well. She has a huge territorial advantage inside Heavenly Court. She must not have gotten too injured, so she is still a threat. This may be Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's concern. In his opinion, my Chi-Si clone was captured and Heavenly Court suddenly exploded, which caused Primordial Origin's revival to fail. So I am the most suspicious one. At the same time, I should be the most nervous person. I do not have my own stronghold. If Heavenly Court's two venerables join hands, I will be in an even worse predicament. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable said the situation is unclear. He is hinting to me that I should make a move first. If Heavenly Court is truly weakened, he will come and join in the fight to steal some benefits himself. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable chose to wait and observe. This made Fang Yuan's plan fall short. In fact, attacking Heavenly Court now was abrupt and contained risks. Even Fang Yuan did not know what condition Star Constellation Immortal Venerable was currently in, but since Fang Yuan had already planned this far, would he not have backup solution? He casted his gaze at Spectral Soul Demon Venerable, who was far away. That after this period of killing, his injuries had mostly recovered. He is the best vanguard that we can have. Fang Yuan smiled as he used his method. Totem killer moves flew out and provoked the insane Spectral Soul Demon Venerable continuously. He was successfully lured into Heavenly Court. Chapter 2330. Almost suffering amnesia from the explosion. With a soft grunt, Zhao Lianyun woke up in an area of ruins and rubble. All she saw were chi currents in front of her. The entire place was covered in white, in all directions. Her ears were buzzing. She felt dizzy and lightheaded. What happened to me? Zhao Lianyun breathed roughly as she inspected her body. She was originally wearing a white dress. She had light skin and white teeth, as refreshing as lilies in the morning. But now, her face was blackened like soot. Her white dress was torn and tattered. She was like a refugee living in a famine, having a wretched appearance. After checking, she found that her body was intact, but she had no strength at all. Her limbs felt weak and powerless. What happened? Why am I like this? Primordial Origin's explosion occurred too suddenly and abruptly. Zhao Lianyun suffered a huge impact and almost experienced amnesia, but soon, her dizziness faded away, and Zhao Lianyun slowly regained her memories. An unprecedented and terrifying explosion had occurred. Her pupils contracted. This scene was etched in her mind and would not be forgotten in her entire life. It was too terrifying. A moment ago, the many Gu immortals around her were watching the mountain-like Chi harvest fruit with immense anticipation for Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable's revival. But at the next moment, Primordial Origin Immortal Venerable exploded. Among all of the Gu immortals, Zhao Lianyun was standing near the periphery, but she was still affected by the explosion. This explosion was too intense. The whole of Heavenly Court was in ruins. Zhao Lianyun naturally could not escape. Why did it explode all of a sudden? As her memories cleared up, Zhao Lianyun's breathing became rougher. I can't believe it. I am practically unharmed. Did Love Gu protect me? Wait, I need to save the rest. Zhao Lianyun's heart jumped. She realized what she should be doing. She might have had Love Gu's protection, but others did not have a rank 9 immortal Gu like her. Zhao Lianyun quickly set off as she went into the vast field of chi currents, searching for other surviving Gu immortals. Before the explosion occurred, the Gu immortals of the 10 great ancient sects were all at the periphery. They were far apart and watched the chi harvest fruit in small groups. The people who were closer to the center were the members of Heavenly Court. White chi rumbled like a vast fog. Zhao Lianyun tried many investigative methods, but none worked. These white chi were remnants of the chi harvest fruit, the aftermath of the explosion. With the area being filled with chi path down marks, It was not strange that a mere rank 6 Gu immortal like Zhao Linyun was unable to use investigative methods, unless she could use Love Gu now. But Love Gu was not just a rank 9 immortal Gu. It was very special. Even a venerable could not refine it forcefully. Even though it was wisdom path, star constellation immortal venerable had not been able to use it. Thus, it continued to live in Zhao Linyun's body. Zhao Linyun did not refine Love Gu, but received its acknowledgement instead. Thus, she could not activate it freely. Sometimes, she wanted it to attack, but it would escape with her. If she wanted it to defend, it might heal instead. Furthermore, each time Love Gu was used, it would take something away from Zhao Linyun. Sometimes, it would even take lifespan. Zhao Linyun flew into the white qi and looked around for people using her memories of the location. After a while, she gasped as she found Bu Zhenzi. When the explosion occurred, he was standing beside her. They were talking, but after the explosion, they were sent flying and left their original spot. But he was still the first person she found. Bu Zhenzi's injuries were terrifying. Half his body was blown away. Only his fragile skeleton was left protecting his heart. He only had 2 internal organs left. The rest were blown to smithereens. The remaining half of Bu Zhenzi's body had turned into a phantom state. His limbs, chest, and internal organs were linked by a translucent thread. He seemed to be in a stable condition. Zhao Linyun wanted to save him, but found that she was helpless to do anything. The injuries were just too severe. The missing half of his body was not important. Forget about Heavenly Court. Even Spirit Affinity House had many ways to regrow his bones, organs, and flesh. But the issue was the large number of Qi Path Dao marks that were carved on his body. The remaining half of his body emitted dense white smoke made of white Qi. His remaining organs and bones were also slowly turning into Qi. What kept him alive was the phantom state that half of his body was currently in. When the explosion occurred, Bu Zhenzi used a phantom path method. But even with this semi-invulnerable state, he could not avoid the injuries caused by this explosion. Zhao Linyun deduced the situation that happened and sighed deeply. Worry and frustration could be seen on her face. Bu Zhenzi was kept alive by his half-phantom body, but this would not last long. The Qi Path Dao marks were going to affect it soon, slowly turning everything into Qi. Bu Zhenzi can't last much longer. Zhao Linyun was helpless. She felt increasingly anxious. She tried to wake him up, but Bu Zhenzi remained unconscious. Zhao Linyun did not even dare to move Bu Zhenzi. She was afraid that he would die from the smallest impact. She had to temporarily abandon him and remember this spot before going back into the white Qi fog to look for others. Is anyone here? Please help. Zhao Linyun moved around in the vast white Qi fog. She called out continuously. The feeling of loneliness and helplessness soon assaulted her in this situation. She was still in disbelief. When she came earlier, she looked at the layers of buildings and saw how grand and majestic Heavenly Court was. She felt surprise and admiration from the depths of her heart. Heavenly Court's immense foundation was accumulated through countless years of history. She felt tiny and insignificant, while also having a sense of security in this place. When she witnessed the gradual revival of primordial origin immortal venerable, she felt that Heavenly Court was regaining its former glory. But then, primordial origin immortal venerable exploded. It was too sudden and too abrupt. What happened? Did Fang Yuan or the other venerables attack? What are Heavenly Court's losses? Can anyone come to help me? At least respond with a word. Zhao Linyun suddenly stopped moving. There was an intense suction force coming from in front of her. The surrounding white Qi currents were sucked in. Zhao Linyun barely stabilized her footing as she slowly got close. The suction force was becoming gradually weaker. After Zhao Linyun reached the source, her pupils contracted as she saw an immortal aperture's entrance. The entrance was open and drawing in white Qi from outside. After stabilizing, a blessed land was formed. Zhao Linyun stood before the immortal aperture's entrance in a daze, motionless. She saw the scenery inside the entrance. There were rivers and flower trees. Under the waves of Qi currents, petals fell from the trees and fell into the rivers, flowing downstream where the carps waited to eat the petals as food. This was the scene of Fairy Lu Fang's immortal aperture. It was extremely beautiful and valuable. It was quite famous in Spirit Affinity House. Fairy Lu Feng was in charge of the Secret Inheritance Peak. She was a neutral faction supreme elder in Spirit Affinity House. Zhao Lianyun remembered that the first time she went to Secret Inheritance Peak, Fairy Lu Feng did not attend to her personally, which was the rule, as she was the current generation fairy. Afterwards, their relationship had always been playing. However, no matter how distant they were, seeing this immortal aperture entrance, Zhao Lianyun's eyes turned red. She felt an intense feeling of sorrow in her heart. She was dead. Fairy Lu Feng died during the explosion. Although she had rank 7 cultivation level, she did not have the defensive power of Phantom Path. She did not have Love Gu either. Not a single trace of her remained. Her immortal aperture landed in Heavenly Court. Because Heavenly Court was filled with Heaven's will and had no heavenly spirit, Lu Feng Blessed Land was formed by taking in heaven and earth qi from outside to stabilize itself. Zhao Lianyun barely managed to control her emotions. She continued to look around for help. Along the way, she saw many immortal aperture entrances which were currently taking in heaven and earth qi. There were too many deaths. Not mentioning the Heavenly Court members, Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects sent more than 10 Gu immortals each. Not counting the captives in the star array calculation formation, there are over 100 Gu immortals from the 10 sects in Heavenly Court now. This explosion killed 80% of the Gu immortals. Zhao Lianyun calculated. She felt her heart turning cold. The 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent had many Gu immortals. Before the 5 regions became one, Immortal Crane sect alone had 12 Gu immortals, and this was one of the weakest sects among the 10 that after the 5 regions became one, the earth veins moved while chi tides appeared, producing countless immortal materials. This caused many Gu immortals within the sects to become stronger. The Gu immortal seeds also had deeper foundations. During the wave of immortal ascension, many Gu immortal seeds in the 10 great ancient sects succeeded in becoming Gu immortals. Aside from them, there were also other Gu immortals recruited from outside. For example, Supreme Elder Wu Zhang from Heavenly Lotus sect recruited the Wood Virtue Elder Mu Huai from the 5 Virtues sect. After the latter became an immortal, because he was a higher-up of the 5 Virtues sect that Wu Zhang created, he was qualified to enter Heavenly Lotus sect. This was the advantage of Central Continent's sect system. Earlier, to ensure primordial origins revival, Star Constellation Immortal Venerable gave up everything else in the process. To prevent Fang Yuan's retaliation, she brought all the elites of Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects into Heavenly Court. But to think that primordial origin Immortal Venerable would explode upon revival, like this, many of Central Continent's Gu immortals died. The pillars of Central Continent's righteous path collapsed. Such a terrifying loss made Zhao Lianyun's arms and legs turn weak. Doomed. Central Continent is doomed. Maybe Heavenly Court can still revive them. Zhao Lianyun was hopeful. But she was not stupid. The more she thought about it, the more she sensed that there was a huge scheme behind this explosion. Central Continent was plotted against. Heavenly Court fell into a trap. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable also fell for a scheme. Although Zhao Lianyun had rank 9 Love Gu, she was only rank 6. What could she do? She could only get help. She shouted loudly. Zhao Lianyun started walking slower and slower. This moment, she felt that she was so weak. Don't be dejected. Current generation fairy of Spirit Affinity House, Heavenly Court is still around. We are also still alive. Right at this moment, there was a lantern that brightened inside the vast white chi. The lantern was not bright, but it was stubborn. It forced its way out of the white chi and arrived before Zhao Lianyun. Was an elderly Gu immortal. His body was bloodstained from head to toe. One of his arms was gone from the explosion. His remaining arm was carrying a small fire in his palm. Zhao Lianyun recognized him. It was Immortal Crane Sect's Old Lord Qin Yang.